All right, Patrick Daugherty's here from the Roto World Football Show. We're going to break down the best and worst weeks of football, games of football. I mean, really what we're looking for is slates here, because I look at it, I'm thinking about like Sunday afternoons in October at 3 p.m. Am I in Valhalla? Am I just like in Nirvana, just be like, yes, I love this? Or am I looking at this? And did you see the breakdown with Scott Hansen of how many games where there's only 3 games in the afternoon window? Did you see that? It's not good.
I do.
What's happening to our country?
I don't know. I do hear tell of this, and it's a crisis. It's also a scheduling crisis for us here at Roto World, because we have too many men for the 1 p.m. Eastern slate, and then we can't put anyone to work in the 4:30 p.m. Eastern slate. So we've got a problem.
We got jobs. That's the number one focus. Dude, we're gonna restart the economy there, starting with Roto World. All right, so I have so many thoughts on this because there's actually some really funny storylines. Like I don't want to get too deep in this, but like the Steelers have the weirdest schedule according to Warren Sharp, like of all time, where it's like not only the hardest schedule ever, but it's the first time in history, or at the end of the schedule ever, but it's the first time in history that every single division game is after week 11. Like some of these schedules just make no, like some of these schedules just like it looks like it was made up in a like a random number generator, and then it's like whatever, nobody's going to complain. The other one is that since the divisional realignment, the Niners have the worst like rest matchups in history. Did you see this? Like
I did see that, and I saw they're playing 4 teams coming off bye somehow for the second consecutive year, which seems unideal
for such a physical team. That seems like a huge disadvantage.
It does. And yet the Steelers, I mean, I saw the owner, like, it's not how you draw it up. Like, that's not a great sign. There were 2 really not great signs. I saw the Steelers owner kind of like loosely complaining about the schedule, and I've seen Dolphins media panicking about them playing potentially 2 to 3 cold weather games, including one that was on November 3rd in Buffalo, where like it's already like a storyline in Miami. Like they gotta play an outdoor game on November 3rd. They're basically screwed. And I've also seen the Dolphins media talking about
I will say that's a very early 2000s Dolphins storyline. Like remember that was always like, oh no. Like I grew up in Florida, obviously, and it was always the number one thing everybody would look at is what are the Dolphins doing? It's 2001. What are the Dolphins doing in December? Is there another cold weather collapse coming? This is a very long-standing fan base anxiety.
That's the early 2000s Dolphins storyline. The mid 2000s Dolphins storyline is that they're apparently upset that they don't have many games at 1 p.m. Eastern, because then they're losing their sun melting advantage. You know how they have like the sun melt?
Well, the Bills game is at night this year.
Yeah, so like they're like, we're screwed. We can't melt Josh Allen at 1 p.m. Eastern. And like the Dolphins fans have a lot of anxiety about the schedule. I'd say more anxiety than any team I've seen so far.
That's interesting. I've never thought about that the Dolphins have more schedule anxiety than anybody. I'm trying to think like every team kind of thinks they're getting screwed vaguely. And then the big one, I remember the big one a couple of years ago, and this is not team specific, is when he started to do teams would play Sunday night, then Thursday. Oh, yeah. And then people were really upset about that. But that's just one-offs or 2-offs or whatever. I'm trying to think if there's any other team that thinks they're getting reliably screwed quite like the Dolphins. Nobody has such dramatic temperature differences. That's why I think you end up there. Or I do remember Tom Brady used to complain about how many night games they would play because it really screwed with their preparation.
And him going to sleep, of course, at like 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Him on the Rod and Todd Flanders bedtime schedule. All right, so we're going to get to it. We're going to start with this. What is the best week of football this year, Patrick?
I hate to go chalk here, but it's week 1.
What?
So first off, you know, I work for NBC, you work for ESPN. Like, we get a lot of the good games, but I don't really care about the good games, gonna be honest. I skip right over the good games and I go to like the weird games, like the narrative games.
These 2 playoff teams playing each other? Get this off my TV.
It doesn't matter at all. I go to the narrative games. But week 1, we have a lot of good games in week 1. We've got Ravens Chiefs, of course, on NBC. We got Packers Eagles on Peacock. I actually did not come here to promote any of this, but we got 2 really good games right off the bat, island games. Then you got Cowboys Browns is really intriguing. You have Rams Lions, super intriguing, I believe, on Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. But so those are the great games. And no one cares about the great games because everyone already knows about the great games. So that's part of what makes week 1 great. But what really makes week 1 great is all the grudge matches I feel like nobody was asking for. We kick off the season with the Arthur Smith Bowl. Like this stood out to me immediately. Steelers, Falcons. We get the Art Smith Bowl. We get the Tom Telesco Bowl, the Raiders and Chargers in week 1. We get the Ghosts of Russell Wilson's Past Bowl and the Broncos and Seahawks, where they're going to basically spend the whole game. They call a timeout in the first play and to spend the whole game commiserating about Russ. You got Jags Dolphins. Jags Dolphins is like a perfect early turmoil game. Yeah, where I know whoever loses this game, the fan base is going to be in crisis meltdown mode. Week 1 looks, and the final revenge game, by the way, is Aaron Rodgers versus the institution of Monday Night Football. You know, they got him injured last year, and now he's back on Monday Night Football to begin this season. This time it counts. Week 1 has so many good narratives.
All right, so Bleacher Report did a revenge game graphic, like number 1 revenge games of the year, top 5. And they just have a big graphic that just says week 2. And it's a Photoshop of Russell Wilson in Steelers uniform playing against the Broncos.
That's so good.
Who's taking revenge on whom?
I know.
Exactly.
Because
what are we doing on what does a revenge game mean? A revenge game means I'm trying to get back at a team. Russell Wilson was given every opportunity. I mean, I guess he's pissed off because he got benched because of the safety, or they came to him.
They kind of did a shakedown on him.
No, they did a shakedown of him, but he was objectively bad. He was objectively bad enough to say, we don't want you to be as part of our future. So that's why they said take less guarantees. And then when they did that, they turned to another quarterback. But like, I just think you were given ample opportunity. You were giving unbelievable amounts of money. I just don't know. And also, what is Russell Wilson going to do to the Broncos? What's he going to do? What is he capable of doing? This is not Randy Moss playing against the Cowboys and saying, I'm going to get 900 yards every time we play. Russell Wilson is not capable of revenge.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Randy Moss. His revenge line is a Randy Moss receiver line as a passer. It's like 184 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's how he'll take revenge. It's so funny that you mentioned the Russell Wilson revenge, because I'd have to just get to one of my main talking points. And that is the absolutely unruly amount of Sean Payton revenge games. Like this guy's been gone from the Saints by I think literally only 2 years. And like every other week he has a revenge game where it's the Steelers and Russ in week 2. And I agree with you. What does revenge even mean in this case? It's just like the classic. I know it when I see it. Someone's getting revenge in this game, either Sean or Russ.
Okay, but let's say the Broncos have like a dignified 21-20 win. Okay,
revenge.
Let's just say that hypothetically.
Revenge.
Are the Broncos like, thank God we stuck it to Russ? I don't think they are. I don't think there's any even like. I don't think anybody's thinking about. I think there's a Don Draper. I don't think about you at all thing. Everybody just moved on. I really just don't see that as a revenge thing. But anyway, yes, Sean Payton has his own revenge stuff. He's fighting so many different battles at so many different times. He's a multi-front kind of guy.
Yes, we have a metric to measure that, by the way. If both teams run a trick play within the first 5 plays, then you know it's a revenge game. The other Sean Payton revenge games at New Orleans in week 7, which he's not really taking revenge, but there could be like a really violent atmosphere in the Superdome that day. I feel like if Dennis Allen is still just doing like the Dennis Allen, like, we can only win by 3 points. We can't win by more. Sometimes we're going to lose by more. Like the homecoming can be like really unruly. Like, why did Sean ever leave? And the most underrated though, Sean Payton revenge game is actually in week 4. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's round 2 with Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets.
Oh, baby.
And that is the game that has Sean Payton like scared and like shook. He cannot lose to Nathaniel Hackett back-to-back years.
I like that the story came and went that the Jets quietly tried to replace Nathaniel Hackett. They're just like, whatever. They just couldn't find anybody. Also, it's not just an indictment of Hackett, which he should have been. There's been many indictments on Hackett. It's also like the bar is so low to improve on him. How could you not find anybody? Like, I guess it was that he was going to stay there, so it'd be a little awkward, or Rodgers wanted to run his own offense. But like anybody would have been an improvement on Nathaniel Hackett.
Randall Cobb joining the coaching staff as the offensive coordinator would have been an improvement on old Nathaniel Hackett. But Nathaniel, he's going to be up for week 4. That's all I can say for Nathaniel Hackett. Say what you will, he'll be up.
He's locked in.
Yes.
I was just not getting any results for the Falcons schedule, and it turned out I was Googling Falcons 2025 schedule, and I just want everybody in media to know, if you're not already looking at the 2025 opponents of the Falcons, like I am right now, you're getting outworked.
You are.
You're just getting outworked.
You really
you're getting
are.
flat outworked. But no, here's what I want to talk about because I saw a couple screen grabs here. So the Falcons have Steelers week 1, Eagles at Eagles week 2, Chiefs week 3.
Yikes. That's a problem.
I gotta say.
Oh, I know.
And the Steelers are whatever. The Steelers are just as good as the Falcons. Whatever. Not if you're trying to avoid.
I know where you're going.
Kirk Cousins has to make it through 2 years at least without like everybody in the city being like, we have to bench you now. And there's a chance, an outside chance, that going into New Orleans on September 29th, they're 0-3.
Yes.
And Michael Penix is going to look great throwing on air. Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jeremiah made the best point about this, where it's like the biggest issue is that Kirk Cousins hasn't even met most of his teammates and has no equity in that city. Like Aaron Rodgers, people liked Aaron Rodgers because he had delivered them lots of wins, lots of great plays in the Super Bowl. Like it's completely different. I mean, the Jordan Love, Michael Penix comparisons break down almost immediately, but
yes.
there's a big one. I was surprised to see. Let me get this up here. So according to the Vegas odds, somebody went out and did this. They did the implied odds. Sebastian, I don't know, just Sebastian on Twitter.
Shouts to Sebastian.
Put your last name on there, Seabass. But they did a chart of implied odds to win the division. And I was shocked to see that the Falcons are 53%, which is not a surprise. I knew they'd be favored, but the Bucs are only 23%. And I'm sitting there saying, what am I missing here? The Bucs and the Saints are 19%. The Bucs looked pretty good last year, man. Like I'm not sure what I missed. I mean, I know they lost Dave Canales, but Liam Cohen's a good offensive coordinator. I just think that the disaster potential in Atlanta is a little higher than we thought. And I'll say the last thing I'll say on Atlanta with the first 3 weeks and the Penix thing. I really liked what the Falcons were doing until this last draft.
Yes.
Really liked what they were building. Then I go on NFL Live last week and I say kind of what I just said. And I got maybe like 20 Falcons fans being like, you're an idiot. And like, oh, and also like Kirk Cousins was like, I'm just going to be happy to come to work every day. And then everybody was tweeting at me being like, hey, I thought that pick was going to cause drama. What? Because Kirk Cousins just said that he's not actively trying to leave. Like, what did you expect Kirk Cousins to say? But the point I'm making, we're a little bit lucky that the Falcons are not a more annoying fan base.
Yes.
Because if the Eagles did this,
oh my God,
or the Cowboys did this,
the Jets,
or the Bears did this, the Jets,
the Jets, I knew that might get a laugh.
You know what we would get? You just don't get it. You just don't get what we're trying to do. It's a little bit like The Process, where I'm sorry, you're too stupid to get it. Oh, you're too stupid to get us mortgaging all of our assets and losing for 5 years so that we can get Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz. Oh, poor you. Read theory. Read math.
Yes, read theory. My final note on the Falcons, you mentioned that rough start. The most guaranteed loss there is not the Eagles or the Chiefs. It is the Steelers in week 1. Mike Tomlin with 6 months to prepare for Kirk Cousins. Like the dude is going to be like 12 for 29 with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's going to be
what weird skill guy is going to have 7 receptions in the Arthur Smith offense? Is it Pat Fryermuth?
No, Darnell Washington, the backup tight end. Yeah, Darnell Washington's going to go off. I feel like
Darnell Washington, the idea of him is very exciting. Like, I think like a great athlete at Georgia, has a high ceiling, and I feel like he's the kind of guy Arthur Smith's going to look at and say, you're not ever getting the ball. Because there's a couple of people at training camp who are really excited about what you could be. So we're just going to have you inline blocking.
So what you're saying is Darnell Washington, he's a deep cut for everyone else. But for Arthur Smith, that doesn't even begin to scratch. You haven't listened to a single album they put out before they were on a major label. You haven't listened to a single bootleg. If you think Darnell Washington is legit, you're not legit. I'm sorry. Get out of my office.
I'm going to put in my calendar an alert to look at George Pickens' Instagram stories on Sunday night of week 1. That's all I'll say.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So my favorite week is, and it's funny because there's a lot of buys, a lot of good buys in this week. But week 14.
Yeah, well, 6 buys in week 14, by the way.
Yes, but wait, this is one of the weirdest weeks of all time because it's stacked. They were like, all right, we have 6 buys. some good teams like Houston, a couple other teams are on the bye, and then we're just going to give you quality just to make up for it. So we have Green Bay at Detroit. We have New York, the Jets at the Dolphins. We have Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Buffalo at the Rams.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Bears. It's in the afternoon.
Yes.
Bears at Niners. Chargers at Chiefs. Monday night, Bengals at Dallas. So you have on the bye Houston, Baltimore, Washington, New England, and Washington, New England are intriguing because of the rookie quarterbacks, and Indianapolis, and Bo Nix. And yet you get greatness. I don't know. Is week 14 the bye apocalypse for you, or is there another one for the fantasy guys?
Week 14 is the main bye apocalypse because it's so deep into the fantasy playoffs and it's 6 teams. But the real bye apocalypse, I believe, is I've got it right here. There's a week where fantasy just goes to die. It's the Chiefs, Dolphins, Vikings, and there's 4. And of course I've lost it, even though I had it here. But there's 6 wide receiver ones on bye. Yeah. It's this is the least week 6.
No.
Week 6.
I got it. Yeah.
Chiefs, Dolphins, Rams, and Vikings. That's like half of the wide receiver ones on bye. No Pat Mahomes. So week 14 is going to take up all the oxygen, but week 6 is going to make or break fantasy seasons because there's going to be several teams that are missing their top 3 receivers that week, and we'll just be totally screwed.
Pat Freiermuth, pick him up.
Muth's got to step up that week.
I want to quickly shout out November 10th because it's not anything about good or bad. The Broncos play the Chiefs that day at Arrowhead.
Oh, boy. Oh, my gosh.
If you think that Bo Nix isn't winning that game, leading towards – because they have Buffalo the next week. The Chiefs have Buffalo the next week, Sunday at 4:25 slot. If you think Bo Nix isn't winning that game, leading to 6 days of are the Chiefs broken, you are lost. If you don't think Bo Nix isn't – Bo Nix is going to be, incredibly mediocre. They're going to be 4-5 going into that game, or 3-5, whatever it is, how many games they play. I don't know when the Broncos bye is. If you think Bo Nix isn't stealing that game on the road, leading to are the Chiefs truly good and dead news cycle, you've never watched football before.
It's true. It's become an annual thing every year where the Chiefs go Golden State Warriors mode around week 3 or 4. They don't try for 2 months. Yeah, they lose to 2 teams they should not lose to. It's really funny that you mentioned that as basically your lock of the year. Is kind of how I took that.
Dude, they play the Panthers on November 24th at Carolina, tricky place to play. And I was thinking about calling for a Panthers win there. They do. However, there's always the thing about the Chiefs is they always have a weird loss, and then they have one game where it's they can't lose this game. It was Broncos last year. It's they can't lose this game. And then they lose that game. They had the Raiders too. There's always one game that's one notch worse than you think they can get, and then they figure it out and they win the Super Bowl.
So your lock of the year is maybe Bo Nix winning at Arrowhead Stadium. It's funny. I literally wrote down. I went through the whole schedule last night, all 18 weeks. I identified one lock of the year, and it's Saints Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in Week 5 on Monday Night Football. And there is a 0.0% chance Derek Carr is winning this Monday Night Football game at Arrowhead Stadium. I would bet every asset I have, liquid or otherwise, that the New Orleans Saints will not be winning at Arrowhead Stadium in Week 5 on ESPN.
I have one more, which is that the Bills are going to start 5-1 and then have a baffling loss to the Tennessee Titans in Week 6.
Week year?
7.
They lost to Urban Meyer. They lost to Urban Meyer, the Bills. So they're even more committed to the inexplicable loss bit than the Chiefs. They lost to Urban friggin' Meyer. It's happening. 5-2 for the Bills. Lock it in.
Do you have a worse slate?
I do, because the problem is the worst slates aren't even fun to talk about. Week 9, there is not a single compelling matchup. And, there's, of course, games compelling to everyone. I couldn't find any narratives in this week. It starts off with Texans, Jets. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers is at least playing that game. It's the Cowboys, Falcons. You do have Dolphins, Bills. But, the matchups are so Patriots, Titans is the most random matchup I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. Bears, Cardinals is the second most random. I'm never watching a Bears-Cardinals game.
They used to share a city. So
That's true.
The old timers will be locked the F in.
Like Sunday Night Football, no offense to my company, NBC, but Jags, Eagles, who was asking for this on Sunday Night Football? No offense to ESPN, Bucks, Chiefs.
Jags, Eagles?
Bucks, Chiefs.
Doug Peterson?
Yeah, that's true. It is the Doug Peterson
How
Bowl.
much can we do on Doug?
That's true. I'll be all in on the Doug Peterson Bowl because Doug's seat's going to be hot by then, too, I think. And Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni. Okay, this is actually the hot seat bowl between the Jags and Eagles. I'm back in on week 9.
Have you seen the Thursday night schedule?
I've meant to go through Thursday Night Football is kind of like my weekly Super Bowl. All I know is that there's no Jags Titans. So they've dropped the ball yet again.
I want to draw your attention to week 7, Denver at New Orleans.
Oh my
primetime.
God! Yes, exactly.
Week 7. That's week 3 stuff because it can't the wheels can't be off the wagon. You know what I'm saying? You have to put that in week 3.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, and somebody tweeted this to me last night. They just tweeted how bad the game was, and I said to them, I just love the sport of football. I will watch anything, and I remember when I was at the Ringer one time, it was like May, and I was doing one of these pods, and people could see my television behind me on, and I was watching either the ACC or the SEC network, just a replay, and people were like, "What are you doing?" And literally on Sunday, I was really tired, and I was going to take a nap. I was just going through the schedule, and I just put on the Boston College spring game. I just like action, right? And Bill O'Brien talking about how the community needs to support the team. Literally, that's what it was. I turned it on the Boston College spring game, and it was Bill O'Brien being like, "Come on down." It was like a used car salesman. "Come on down. We got football." But anyway, during these games, I like to remind everybody that you'll be begging for this in May. You'll be begging for this in June. Denver, New Orleans is the first time I sent that tweet on Thursday night. We're all going to watch it. We're going to be locked in. It's going to be Derek Carr getting yelled at by his receivers actively. In year 1, he was getting yelled at by his receivers. And now all of a sudden we're going to have Sean Payton there.
Who knows all their weaknesses? He's
all their weaknesses.
He's going to pick them apart.
But you talk about Sean Payton revenge games. We can't get that's a half a quarter. That's pregame stuff, and then you get into the actual football, and I just feel like it's going to be grim.
I realized this is not a Sean Payton revenge game. This is going to be a Sean Payton act of mercy game because he is going to get Dennis Allen fired. It's because they have the mini bye. Then the Saints will have 10 weekdays to get the new coach in. Sean Payton is getting Dennis Allen fired Thursday Night Football week 7. You heard it.
And then he's going to do in the press conference just so much respect for DA. Just so much respect for DA. Yes. In the press conference. He's going to win 28-7 and he's going to say what he's been able to build here has been really special to watch. I got to see a lot of good people before the game, after the game. We shared a little conversation. It's just great to be back. This night isn't about me. This night isn't about me. But it's great to be back.
We're going to have to revisit this because this is all happening.
This is 100% happening. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words. Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. I want to take you through Week 18.
All right.
Have you seen it? I
have. Well, I've seen that they don't put times on any of these games anymore.
Well, yes.
Talk about it used to be a country.
This is not an exaggeration. Going off what we know now, and a lot of times we're wrong about this stuff because it's quarterbacks get injured. By the way, if the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers gets injured again, Goodell has to deliver another quarterback.
He does.
Or else we're going to be starving. We're going to be starving. The primetime games they have. I can't watch. I like Tyrod Taylor. We can't have him on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and Thursday Night Football that often. We can't do it.
He'll get hurt too. Is the problem with Tyrod? Even if he's playing well, he'll get hurt, and it's going to be the number 3 guy.
Who's the third string quarterback?
Is it still Tim Boyle? I'm really hoping it's not, but. That's Zach. They probably have reacquired Zach Wilson by now.
Zach Wilson. Jordan Travis.
All right. Oh yeah. Well, is he going to be healthy?
Is Aaron Rodgers going to be healthy?
That's very good. Is Tyrod Taylor going to be healthy? All these guys.
Someone named Andrew Peasley is also on the roster.
This is not a joke. Someone named Colby Suits, a real person from Houston Christian, is also on the Jets 90-man roster right now.
So Andrew Peasley. appears to have been Wyoming's quarterback last year. Not necessarily on my radar.
Next Josh Allen.
20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Oh, it is next Josh Allen because in 2022, he had 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And then he had his breakout year last year. And again, and we were wrong about this, but there's probably a Wyoming contingent like with Josh Allen being like, you're not smart enough to get it. You're just not smart enough to get Andrew Peasley and his ceiling. Week 18. Carolina at Atlanta.
Ooh, wow.
So here's the problem. Here's the actual problem with some of these games. There's so many teams. I think this is like a passing boom thing. Like the passing boom is in its final form now. And we just know if you don't have a quarterback, you either have to have an elite defense, which can go very quickly, or you're just dead in the water. You're just dead in the water. There's just nothing to be done. There's nothing to be done. So keep in mind, there's just so many teams where I'm just like, I don't want to watch you. I don't have to watch you. You're not going to win the Super Bowl. So here we go. Carolina at Atlanta.
Next.
No. Washington at Dallas. No. Unless Jaden Daniels does something. He won't. As a rookie.
Yes.
Like, I think that I'm going to do something on Washington real quick. They actually have to be counterintuitive. If they want immediate success, they have to be counterintuitive and not baby him. Like I think we've conflated setting your rookie up for success with being risk averse.
Yes.
And they actually should just take a ton of deep shots because his leap from year over year in vertical shots is unbelievable. I just don't know about the infrastructure there. I don't know about Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know about I'm waving my hands, Dan Quinn. I just don't know. So I don't know if they're going to have immediate success. I think I was unfair to Jaden Daniels. I said he won't do something year one. He might do something. The Commanders will not do something. All right. So anyway, Washington at Dallas, Kansas City at Denver. It'll be a revenge game from the Bo Nix.
It's true. Everything with the Broncos
win earlier in the year
is revenge.
That's not an issue. Minnesota at Detroit. I don't think Minnesota is going to be playing for the division. Chicago at Green Bay. I don't think that's going to be for the division or playoff seeding. Houston at Tennessee. Okay. Nothing. Jacksonville at Indy. Chargers at Vegas. Seattle at the Rams.
Grim.
Buffalo at New England. Miami at New York. That's the only game plausibly that might have playoff connotations between two teams. The Giants at Philly. The Niners at Arizona. The Bengals at Pittsburgh. The Saints at Tampa Bay. Cleveland at Baltimore. So to me, Cleveland and Baltimore is fine. It feels like they matched up the exact wrong teams.
Well, they did it on purpose. I realized it's intentionally counterintuitive because every year, like, it's going to be Ravens Bengals week 18, and Joe Burrow's hurt. And so
it's like the golf thing, like don't aim for the target because then you'll miss.
Exactly. Rams 49ers week 18 can't miss, and the Rams, are like 5-11 because everyone's hurt. So they're doing the George Costanza. Like, do the divisional matchups no one wants to see in week 18, and then they'll be great, actually.
And then all of a sudden, Giants at Philly will be
exactly. It's a stroke of genius from the NFL.
Drew Lock turned into modern day Kurt Warner.
That is happening, by the way.
And Malik Neighbors. Do you know Kenny Galladay in the last? So do you know who the last 1,000-yard receiver for the Giants? Do you know who it is?
Not Kenny Galladay.
No.
Plaxico Burress.
No.
Odell? Is it Odell?
It was Odell.
Yeah.
It was Odell. First of all, like, it's really hard not to have a 1,000-yard receiver every couple of years. It's really hard.
This was a big St. Louis Rams fact by the end, by the way. Like, we went like 11 years without having.
Didn't Kenny Britt get one?
I don't know.
In 2016, they were 1 foot out the door. Okay. But I was looking at some stats because I think Malik Neighbors is probably going to be the best receiver since Odell pretty easily. But at one point, I think in 2021, Kenny Galladay led the team in receiving with 521 yards. Like, that's wishbone stuff.
That really is.
Wishbone offense. That's like where Nebraska 1983. That's what those numbers were.
That's Peasley at Wyoming type stuff, man.
Like, 2022 Peasley.
Yes.
2022 Peasley.
Yes.
23. So a couple of things I want to get to before we.
Can I get to one really quick that I noticed?
Oh yeah.
I noticed the Kevin Clark opportunity of the year, by the way. In week 7, On ESPN Plus, you guys have a doubleheader that night. This is an ESPN Plus exclusive, kind of like we do with Peacock. It's Chargers Cardinals. I just don't see a lot in this matchup, like kind of right off the jump. It needs a Clark cast to like bring these kind of observations.
An alt cast.
It needs a Clark cast, big time.
No, I know. An alt Clark cast. Omaha can get on that. I do believe we probably. I think we've added some people to do more casts that might be bigger names than me. That's official. Sometimes I have this real big problem where I never know if anything is official or not, and then I talk about it, and then it's like, I shouldn't have done that. No, but I believe Peyton Manning said Bill Belichick's going to be on. I think he said it on McAfee the other day. He's going to be on the Manning cast. This actually happened famously. I thought that if you put it in Slack, it was official, and I'm not talking about Omaha. At the Ringer, when we hired Warren Sharp, they put it in Slack. And then I had Warren Sharp on a pod like 2 weeks later, and I was like, my new coworker. And Warren just froze. And then we put it out, and somebody was like, what? We didn't announce. We're announcing that like in August. This was like in June. And I was like, oh, I thought, okay, sorry. So I'm always terrible at that stuff. The key is to just not tell me anything.
I did this with Patrick Crane's baby on a podcast this year, so I kind of feel weird. I announced his baby before.
You announced his baby, and then he's getting texts, and also from people who are just deep into your podcast. And so it's like it's only the guys who are just complaining about Bo Nix who are texting him. It's like it's not the people you want texting you. It's just huge Roto World Football Show fans.
But you tell the people at Omaha, I demand a Kevin Clark cast for Week 7 ESPN.
I will pass that on.
Chargers Cardinals.
I will pass that on. I think that should be pretty easy.
That can be arranged, I feel like.
Just give me a huge carve out. Any other things that jump out here? I think the biggest thing, so the Jets, I believe, have so they have the Niners, obviously. That's a tough game. But then they've got a pretty easy stretch to where first coach fired to me, it may not be Saleh. It may not be Saleh.
No, it's Allen.
They got San Francisco. Then they have Tennessee, New England, Denver. They got the Bo Nix. Bo Nix is just stalking this entire episode. It really is incredible. Minnesota, Buffalo. So they really only have, if they have Aaron Rodgers, they should be 4-1 or 5-1 going into Buffalo. I mean, 4-1. But and then Pittsburgh, then New England again. They have a pretty easy schedule. Even the second half. I mean, it gets a little hairy after the bye. Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, LA, Buffalo, Miami. But still, they've got...
That's a trap. Any Jets fans will tell you this is a trap. You don't want an easy schedule. Because then when you're inevitably 2-3, like the level of crisis in the gangrene land is going to be just through the roof. And I'm already seeing problems here. Week 3, supposedly easy Patriots. It's on Thursday Night Football. Coin toss, essentially. Week 5, they're facing the young man, J.J. McCarthy. They're doing it in London, England.
Come on.
So 2-3. You didn't want – the Jets are going to be 2-3 regardless, is my opinion, Kevin. And you want it to be the hard portion of the schedule and not the easy portion of the schedule. So I'm blowing up your narrative there on the Jets' easy schedule because there's no such thing.
You've blown up my Week 18 narrative and my Jets narrative. Hey, I have a question, and you've got way more kids than I do. Everybody complaining with these Christmas Day games. What are you guys doing on Christmas Day? That is a 1-hour activity. That is a 1-hour activity.
I just think that it has nothing to do with religion or anything like that. Some things, there should be one thing bigger than the NFL.
Stop. It does have something to do with religion. Football is the religion.
True. There should be one thing.
Oh, we don't want football on Christmas Day. What are you doing?
One thing bigger.
You know what I did on Christmas for like 15 years? I watched
You watch Kobe.
The Heat play. Yeah, watch the Heat play the Lakers, and then I would go see a George Clooney movie.
See, that's
what I would do. Because my mom would go, "Oh, there's a new George Clooney movie. It's like 6 p.m. There's a Clooney movie. I go to that."
You want to hear an
and then everybody, the streaming services. Oh, well, we have to get this and this and this. Well, first of all, that's every sport. Welcome to every sport.
Yes.
Second of all, let me tell you a little story. I think I've told this before, but I actually got the team wrong when I told it, the opposing team. So Notre Dame, a couple years ago, played on Peacock. Your Peacock.
They did.
And they played UNLV. I thought it was Stanford. It was UNLV. And my uncle He's a boomer. He is a boomer. He's among the most boomers, among the most boomerish.
The vanguard.
Okay? So he doesn't, he calls me up and he's like, I'm not missing Notre Dame game. What are my options here? And I explained Peacock to him. And I realized I have to take a step back and explain streaming services to him. Like, I borderline have to explain the internet to him.
Television to him.
At the end of that conversation, he's locked into Peacock because he's not missing Notre Dame game. And that, in short, is why the streaming services pay premium.
Oh, yes.
Because they've got my uncle locked in. How much is Peacock? You'd say whatever it is, it's worth it. Whatever it is, it's worth it.
It is.
Not $1.
It's cheap, too. It is cheap. It's cheap.
Whatever it is. I'm a proud Peacock subscriber. I subscribe to all of these things. That's why I'm not complaining. And I don't expense it, by the way. I do not expense it. Don't hit me with that in the Twitter. You could expense it. I do not expense it. Okay?
I
probably should, but I don't.
I expense Sunday ticket. I'll say that.
All right, let's not get the IRS involved here, okay? So I guess what I'm saying is like it's only like this is going to be the golden age because for me, Pat, you know what I grew up with? I couldn't watch a bunch of games. There'd always
someone hit me. Michael Salfino hit me with
games
that on Twitter yesterday too.
There'd be Gator games like out of conference stuff. They were like $80 on pay-per-view, like it was a Roy Jones Jr. fight in the '90s. What am I supposed to do with that?
People don't remember that. People Mizzou. I think there was a Mizzou UNLV game that was legit pay-per-view. People don't realize how dark the days used to be. I will agree with that.
Zoomers never understood refreshing like a AOL scores page to see if the Rams upset the Packers in 1996. And then you'd have to like, and we didn't have a satellite dish, but you'd have to like hope for a glimpse at the end of the 1 p.m. things before they cut to the 4 p.m.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, Brett Favre is driving, and we can only hope that contractually they're allowed to show it before we get to the 4 p.m. Bucks-Panthers game. That's what we used to do.
It's true.
And now we deal with, I'm so sorry that we have to get Wait, you didn't have Netflix?
Listen, it's just symbolic. It's Christmas. It's all about symbolism.
What?
It's symbolism. I'm watching.
What are you doing? Tell me your plan on Christmas. It's better than football.
Well, listen, with 4 kids and 2 local sets of grandparents, I got 3 Christmases on Christmas.
Plop them down, brother. Plop them down.
I got 3 Christmases on Christmas.
Strap it in, lock it in. Let's go.
I just thought of the most insane biographical fact of my entire life, by the way, that on Christmas Day in 1997, when I was 11 years old, in the theater, I saw As Good as It Gets, starring Jack Nicholson. Not a movie for 11-year-olds. Greg Kinnear, Helen Hunt, Jack Nicholson. I saw at Christmas Day in the theater. So I won't sit here and pretend I've never gone to the movies on Christmas, but it's all about the symbolism and seeding one day to, the great bearded man in the sky. Santa, of course, is who I'm talking about.
George Clooney. How do you feel about the NFL elbowing out college football?
I feel like it's counterproductive. Like look at how desperate the NBA is now. Like the NBA was used to people coming into the league with name recognition, and now it takes like years to build these guys up. The NFL does not want to bite the hand that feeds it. Like keep stepping on college football's toes. It's a great system when they come in like Jaden Daniels is already like a superstar. Caleb Williams is already a superstar, and they're not really doing anything to harm it to that degree yet. But the NFL should continue to peacefully coexist with college football, and I don't really understand why they're kind of not just to get into business too with their network partners. Like these networks can't be thrilled that they have like these slates and like even more like college football slates are getting invaded by the NFL. It's not necessary either. It's just like totally pointless. Like it's fine the way it is.
I'm going to push back on that. So I completely agree. I think one of Adam Silver's big failings is that he let college basketball atrophy to the point that no one knows who these guys are. Like we're looking at this draft where no one knows what they are. And we always had like the Michael Olowokandi drafts where it's like, what? But then there were like in the lottery guys where it's like, oh, this guy played 2 years at Kentucky. This guy played 3 years at Georgia Tech. I got it. I got you. This guy won an ACC championship. We all watched that. They gutted that with the one and done and then obviously before that was Stern with the straight to pros thing, and then certainly with the G League overtime elite stuff, which was just ridiculous. I think sounds like they're gonna phase that out, whatever. But the biggest thing for me is college football keeps trying to act more like the NFL every single year.
That's true.
And they're consolidating these TV deals where the Big Ten is signing with 3 networks, even if they don't have the inventory for it. And they're professional. They're making it a national sport instead of a regional sport. And they're getting teams from LA to play Rutgers and all of this stuff. I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think you can say we're going to professionalize this and then not expect A, the NFL to notice, but then B, just say, what? Just it's little old us. We're just college football. Why would you impede on our territory? We're amateurs. You're not amateurs anymore. You professionalized. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the commissioners and the presidents and the people. Nobody runs college football, but they're all acting in their own self-interest, and they're all. I once heard a great phrase. Someone once told me the reason boxing is dying is because everybody involved treats every fight like a going out of business sale. And it's just like, oh, wait, I can get an extra $5. Awesome. And college football is becoming that because, like boxing, nobody's actually in charge to say this is stupid. And so what I think that the college football thing is, they're not trying to destroy college football, and they won't. They're throwing an inside fastball to say, hey, buddy, you keep expanding and you play games when we usually play games. We've noticed. So buckle up your chin strap, pal.
And it doesn't benefit anybody. But by the way, I solved the NBA problem. How is the NBA just not gone to the baseball model? You can go to the league straight out of high school, but then it's like
Nobody
2 or
watching?
3 years.
Oh, okay.
Do the MLB model. Give the players the choice. They really.
So I've thought about that.
And make it 2 years, not 3. Baseball, it's 3. Make it 2.
Didn't baseball change it? Didn't baseball change it to like you could be 21 or something?
I think maybe they tweaked it, but it's still largely high school or 3, I believe.
I don't really know what's going on. I agree. I just think that they need to figure out a way to bring back college basketball. Also, college basketball aesthetic is perfect.
It is. It's so American. It's so chaotic.
Well, just like even like the Fab Five, like the old school St. John's teams, you're just like, you see these guys. It's like an old photo of Mark Jackson at St. John's, and for some reason you're just like, hell yeah. In a way, you're not when you see him with the Pacers.
It's true. That's really true. I have one final note on the NFL season, by the way.
Please. Nothing on Mark Jackson at St. John's.
The NFL season does not begin in week 1. It begins in week 14, the first Jags-Titans game. I have ultimate Thursday Night Football brain. It's not Thursday Night Football, but to me, that has come to define the NFL. And the season, it does end. It ends in week 17, not week 18, because that's Jags-Titans too. So the season begins in week 14 and ends in week 17 with the quintessential modern NFL matchup, Jags-Titans. You heard it here.
I went to a Jaguars-Titans Thursday night game before Thanksgiving 2014. Something
Witnessed
like that.
history. I think that might have been the Color Rush game.
I don't think it was. And maybe it was 2013, maybe it was 2015. I don't know. I was still at the Journal because I never would have taken this trip to the Ringer. And I just remember everybody coming up. This only happened one other time. Everybody coming to me and saying, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I don't have an answer for you. I was just in town to visit my family. I don't really have an answer for you." Similar thing happened last year when I went to a Commanders preseason game just because I was passing through town. And people were just coming up to me just like, What exactly is happening?
Like, we know you like football,
what
but why are you
exactly is happening? I love football. That's why I wanted it on Christmas Day. Patrick Daugherty, Roto World Football Show. What do you got for us coming up this week or next week?
Next week, I've been procrastinating on this big time. I'm putting out my annual NFL GM rankings. As you know, I do the coaches and I do the GMs. The coaches came out like April 3rd. I wait till after the draft to do the GMs. So it's like the narrative, whatever I have in like March or April doesn't get totally blown up. But I'm putting out, assessing all 32 of the NFL's front offices. So I say rankings. It's really just like an assessment of where they're at and where they're going.
I am going to have you on in August. We're going to do best GMs.
I look forward to that and trying to remember like why, like, yeah, you know, Jason liked, he's fine. Trying to remember like what I wrote 3 months ago. Like, oh, please, God.
And why? And these guys who just made awful trades in the interim that you ranked 3rd.
I wrote about Terry Fontenot yesterday. That'll be a highlight, I can say.
Can you give us?
Yeah, he's in the 20s. I'll say that.
He's in the 20s.
He's in the 20s.
Wait, let me look at the list of NFL GMs here. Classic Googling list of NFL GMs. I mean, Terry's done some good stuff. I'll say that. Jerry, I did search by hire, and it says Jerry Jones hired 1989. Duke Tobin, they really so Duke Tobin, it says 1999.
I've seen 2002 for Duke Tobin. There's debate about when he became de facto GM.
One thing I didn't know is he played for the Orlando Predators, but it was before my time. But I've never talked Preds with Duke Tobin, but we're gonna lock in. Pat O'Hara, the quarterbacks coach, was a long time Predators coach, as was Jay Gruden. Big Preds guy. Looking at it now, where would you rank Joe Douglas?
He's currently high teens, low 20s. Because he's had a few hits. He's had more misses. He's 27 and 56 through 5 years and he's fallen prey to what every New York GM, like every Jets or Giants GM thinks, I gotta get a meal ticket. Like they're always hunting for the meal ticket, and he's found his meal ticket. And the same Neil Young once said, the same thing that makes you live can kill you in the end. And
I think that's a beautiful saying. I think that one thought I had this week is that the Jets listen too much to the media and the Giants don't listen enough to the media.
That's an amazing observation on New York football dynamics that feels 100% true on a gut level.
Yep. All right. See you later, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me.